We're happy to have you in for another episode of tonight's program. We are going to talk about Will Levis, the Titans quarterback, who was one of the lesser talking points in a game that was really out of hand before it even began. But instead of dwelling on all the bad that resulted out of the 42-19 defeat for the Tennessee Titans on the road yesterday against the Washington Commanders, we're going to talk about this quarterback situation because there will be other things to address in the coming days and weeks. We are going to talk about whether he is more entertaining or effective as a football player at this point in time. We'll try and get you wrapped up in time to take in some Monday Night Football between the Browns on the road at the Broncos. Jameis Winston, the pregame speech, always entertaining. We will see if we can't talk about some more entertainment that comes with Will Levis and if it's actually something that is meaningful progress or just a little bit of fool's gold and en route to some kind of inevitable moving on from him, whether that is as a starting quarterback and he's still on the roster or in a variety of different other capacities that Will Levis could potentially still participate with this team. We will also talk about whether he's done enough to earn your trust moving forward. Some people liked what they saw. Some people thought it insufficient in that game, and Bert will wrap us up with it in case you missed it at the end of the primetime program. Before we get started, need you guys to share this show around Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and on Twitch. Wherever you are spending time with us this evening, please share the broadcast. If you would be so kind, and we can debate the effectiveness versus the entertainment factor that your quarterback does bring, retweet the show in the bottom right-hand corner of your screen. Facebook Live, you can share now to public. That's in the bottom left. And if you're on YouTube or Twitch, please like the video and subscribe to the channel as well. A lot of people already debating neither for Kick It. Delos is not entertaining at all, sadly. Well, there will be some debate to be had because I think that you could make the argument either way if you wanted to here in the last couple of weeks, but it's running out of time for them to make a determination on him moving forward, and it still feels like there's a lot of questions left up in the air. Let's start this thing. Welcome into A to Z Sports Prime Time from the Zen Sports Studios. More about Zen Sports later on in the show. You know the Primetime program is made possible by Zen Sports. Promo code ATOZTN gets you in on all the action. Two Rivers Ford, the South's most trusted Ford dealer. Go to Two Rivers Ford in Mount Juliet or online at tworiversford.com for more information. TrueMav Fitness in the Gulch, where your first workout is free as a Middle Tennessee resident. No workout recycled or repeated. Go to TrueMavFitness.com for more information today. Titans lose. Will Levis, not a part of the problem, but not a part of the solution either, which is something that we are going to get into. Because I was reading a couple of things on the internet today and just kind of doing my own research and watching this game back on the NFL Plus app. We have access to the full game broadcast, to the condensed broadcast, and the All-22 tape there. I'm not going to say that I've broken down a bunch of tape today, but I will tell you guys that I did watch back this game a couple of times to see what I might have missed on specifically the television angles, what the talking points for the commentators were versus what we thought happened in the press box and what our dialogue was and how that kind of shapes the narrative around these games. Now, there's always going to be a narrative around the Titans quarterback. There's always going to be a narrative around the quarterback position, and this one is a kind of complicated one, right? He's back for 4 games now since the injury. He's made significant progress along the way, but it's still not good enough when these things get out of hand. He's still not showing that he is capable of being one of the best players at his position in professional football. He wasn't as good as Jaden Daniels was on Sunday, but we understand that Jaden Daniels had a significantly better situation around him than did Will Levis and was not undermined actively by 2 different parts of the team, defense and special teams, that really put him in a tough spot. But he's still welcome to overcome some of that, which is a completely fair argument from you guys. So we're going to talk about Levis entertaining versus effective tonight, and that's the place that I want to start. Your Two Rivers Ford take here in the comment section, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch. How would you describe Will Levis in his 4 games back? We're going to read you the numbers here in just a second. You're going to see some Will Levis plays. You're also going to hear from Brian Callahan here in just a moment, right after I remind you that the Primetime program and your Two Rivers Ford take are made possible by the South's most trusted Ford dealer, Two Rivers Ford. They always offer you great prices and great financing options, no matter what kind of vehicle you're looking for your family's budget or your needs. They go above and beyond to make the car buying process fast, easy, and fun. Two Rivers Ford in Mount Juliet or online at tworiversford.com for more information. So, Will Levis, at this point, how would you describe his 4 games back and how you feel he is meeting the challenge, or at least competing for the opportunity to be your starting quarterback, not just for the present, but for the future? Chosen says, go easy on us tonight, Buck. Listen, I'm talking about the good stuff. I'm talking about Will Levis. I think this is about as positive a story as there is out of this season, even if you don't feel, and not all of you feel overwhelmingly positive about the Will Levis experience. And I'm inclined to understand a lot of that right now, because it's still not good enough to win you games outright. And that's ultimately what you're looking for. Major Key says it's a catfish situation. That's how he would describe the Will Levis progress. Tin Win says entertaining in a vacuum if you just look at the plays without any of the bias of losing. Well, yes, but the game situation, the game score, just the way that the special teams put the defense in horrendous positions, and the defense wasn't able to stop a nosebleed in this game, both through the run or via the pass. It was a catastrophe on all sides. You had penalties rampant in the first half, 11 penalties in the first half alone, only 1 penalty accepted in the second half of that game, which is also interesting to note. But there is just so much there that's wrong, whereas the dialogue around Will Levis was much easier to have at the start of the season, when you could just look at him and say, no, that's the reason why they lost a football game this week, because he did the thing, right? That was a much easier version of the conversation, when in reality, this team has all manner of problems. And now, as I think Austin Stanley pointed out yesterday on Twitter, the script has flipped, at least around the dialogue, where there's so many other things wrong with the Tennessee Titans. But Will Levis, the thing that you thought was the biggest problem, is no longer that. And in fact, he's making incremental improvements that are at least making you second guess a little bit. That's kind of where we're at with the Will Levis experience. Willie Jeans, no bias there, says steady improvement with flashes of what could be. And yes, I think that's completely fair to acknowledge. I think that's all that you can ask him to do right now. I also think it's insufficient. Flashes are not good enough. I need concrete evidence that this player is making improvements and that this player can sustain. And I have not yet seen that, right? I've seen him start to do baseline things better, took less sacks in this game, made some really nice throws while avoiding pressure in this game. And he was under pressure in this game, the way that they were able to scheme problematic situations for the Titans offensive line. The fact that J.C. Latham was dealing with an injury and had to battle through it in this game also led to some issues there. The run game, not of consequence against the Commanders. The game was out of hand by game situation with the 28-0 lead that the Commanders had midway through the second quarter. It was a really, really difficult thing that you are trying to overcome. Troy says, why are we even talking about Levis? We all know what we're going to get with Levis. I don't. I genuinely don't know what I'm going to get from him on a week-to-week basis, which is also, by the way, a part of the evaluation. I don't know what version of Will Levis to expect on a weekly basis, but I'm starting to get at least a more tame version of a game, of a player who is at least capable of managing some level of situational football. It's such a low bar. I understand that that's not good enough. And again, it doesn't have to be good enough. That's something that we're going to talk about coming up next. But in the meantime, how would you describe Will Levis through these last 4 games? This is courtesy of Mike Herndon on Twitter. Will Levis's numbers over the last 4 weeks, 71 of 115, so that's completing 61.7% of his passes, 960 yards, and 8.3 yards per attempt, 7 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, a rating of 101.3. He was fine on Sunday. There was drops all over the place. There was penalties on the offensive line. There was penalties on the special teams. There was fumbles on the special teams and from Tony Pollard, which you almost never see. Thought he was solid. I thought he was fine. I think you can do something with competent quarterback play in this league. And it doesn't have to be forever, right? Nobody's telling you to get married to Will Levis just because he's put together a solid 4-game stretch. I'm not telling you that, which is something that we're going to talk about next. But I think solid is exactly the way that I would describe him. I think steady is the way that I would describe him, which is not something that I could say at the very start of the season. You're going to hear from Brian Callahan here in just a second, right after I remind you that the primetime program is going to, or is always presented by the Ashton Real Estate Group of RE/MAX Advantage. Go to GaryAshton.com, get your dream address without the stress, get the intel edge you need to succeed from the Ashton team. This is Brian Callahan earlier at the press conference speaking about the quarterback and the progress that he thinks he's made.
Yeah, I think he did some really positive things again. He's stacked really 4 weeks now of growth and good football. I thought he made a couple really fantastic plays. And again, when you're dropping back that many times with that kind of deficit, you're getting everybody's best stuff. You're getting their best rushes, they're getting their best pressure. And I thought he did a nice job of trying to keep fighting through the game and finding completions. Still got things to work on, but I'm very positive on the things that he did in the game throughout the course of it that showed that he's still growing and still getting better. And again, there's plenty of things that he's got to keep continuing to improve on, and some things that we can keep manufacturing in practice to help him, particularly with the pocket and some of the escapes in the pocket where we're not taking 1-yard sacks. We're getting on the perimeter and maybe making some plays or getting a chance to extend it. So those things are things we'll continue to hammer. But yeah, certainly a good enough performance by Will given the circumstances.
So that is Brian Callahan earlier today talking about, again, incremental levels of improvement, but a solid 4-game stretch, a competent 4-game stretch for Will Levis at this point. He finishes this particular game 18 of 37, 212 yards passing, 2 touchdowns, and no interceptions, no turnovers on the day. He did fumble once, right? The aborted snap play. He did recover that fumble, so at least some level of disaster avoided there. But he is taking better care of the football. I think that he's making throws that are there to be made. I just think that his team outright betrayed him this week on defense and on special teams, that the offense really didn't do much around the quarterback to help him succeed either. So it's a tough evaluation of him, but I thought considering, I thought he was fine. I thought he was completely fine on Sunday, and that, again, is some level of progress. So this is a different version of the question, right? Has he done enough for you to take you out of the quarterback running, the starting quarterback running in 2025? I mean via free agency. I mean via the draft. Has Will Levis shown you enough in 4 games to make a determination about what this team's 2025 plans at quarterback and really roster-wide should be? It's a question that you really have to think about. And to his credit, he's at least made you think about it a little harder than you have been in the previous weeks. Certainly at the start of the season where you said, all right, wash your hands of this guy, be done with it, try and trade him. That was my position at the end of the year. I still think that there's some merit to that, depending on how much better, if this thing can be substantially better. I think it needs to be substantially better for you to make any determination beyond 2025. But I do think that there's at least a conversation to be had about next season for this player as he continues to try and prove that he is capable of getting the job done and competing at a reasonably high rate. Now, for you guys, has he done enough to at least make you say, okay, not worth drafting? I mean, you're picking 7th overall at this point, so you would probably be out of the running for the top 2 quarterbacks, and either Cam Ward or Shedeur Sanders, depending on how you have these guys stacked. Jalen Milroe, if you're talking quarterback in the draft, is basically what you would be looking at here if you were to spend the 7th overall pick or potentially trade back if you think Jalen Milroe is going to be there to address the quarterback situation through the draft. You also don't have that enticing of a free agent crop of quarterbacks right now. Sam Darnold is probably going to get paid more money than I think you should want to spend on a player like Sam Darnold, where you're basically hitting the reset button with him. Zach Wilson will be available. I don't know if that interests you. There's the idea of a Trey Lance type of situation, one of these quarterbacks who's flamed out in multiple places now and is trying to put their career back together, a la a Sam Darnold or a Geno Smith or a Baker Mayfield. These things do happen. And so I know while you may hear a couple of those names and be like, absolutely not. Are you an insane person? What are you talking about? Because some of those other quarterbacks that I mentioned, Baker, Geno in particular, they did have some level of success before ultimately not panning out at their respective first stops, right? Baker Mayfield got the Browns to the playoffs, which is an unthinkable thing that we now almost consider routine with how much he helped that franchise get off the mat. Geno Smith was a second-round pick. He did not win much of consequence in New York while he was there. He spent the rest of his time before being the Seahawks starting quarterback being a backup elsewhere and learning. Now he's one of the most effective quarterbacks in the league, and he's being kind of betrayed by his offensive coordinator and his offensive line situation. They're really tough. Aaron Rodgers potentially may be out there, but really, I don't know how you could look at this roster, say Aaron Rodgers is going to help the problem when there's so many other needs that you could spend that money on at this point. Will Levis, has he shown you enough to take you out of the quarterback conversation in 2025 is the question. Let's talk about it together. While I remind you that the Primetime program made possible by TrueMap Fitness in the Gulch. Go to TrueMapFitness.com. Your first workout is free as a Middle Tennessee resident. No workout ever recycled or repeated. Just the best and most effective training, the best and most effective coaching staff, a top-of-the-line facility conveniently located in downtown Nashville in the Gulch. TrueMapFitness.com for that first workout free. So has Will Levis shown you enough to take you out of the starting quarterback discussion in 2025? I think it's a fair question at this point. Those two quarterbacks stink, says MB. I'm not sold on any of them, which is fair. That's how I'm sure many people felt about a lot of these quarterbacks who are currently being rehabilitated. I'm telling you, you don't give up on these dudes. The league does not give up on these dudes. Maybe some they should before they actually do, but I think that this is something that at least has to be in consideration. Jack Ripper says Levis makes incredible throws. His arm talent is incredible. Roberto says that he thinks that Levis is fine for 2025. He would address other needs that this roster has. Edge rush, wide receiver, offensive tackle, so many other needs on this roster that if you could just get Will Levis through the next couple of seasons, even if he's not your long-term future, you can at least build out a solid enough team around him where you can start to put a quarterback that you might add down the line in a better possible position to succeed or make it work with Will Levis. I just don't think there's outright cause to give up on him completely yet. I do think these 5 games matter. Each and every one of these 5 games matter, and we'll see, because he makes throws like this on Sunday where this is a play in the second quarter where he's escaping pressure. It was the longest play of the day. It's a 30-yard completion to Calvin Ridley, and then the end also on that ensuing drive. He's showing that he is capable of managing the situation. He's just been in really, really bad spots with some of his skill position players not catching the football on Sunday, his offensive linemen continuing to draw penalties. It's been a really difficult thing for him to overcome, but you see the quality of these throws here in the last couple of weeks against the Texans. You see the NWI touchdown, by the way, 8 touchdown receptions in his last 8 games. Nick Westbrook-Akina is a god, and I will hear nothing different. But yes, that play in particular, that Ridley throw against the Commanders is probably my favorite Will Levis throw of the season. What he did to make the throw, how he made the throw off of platform. It shows off his arm strength, his arm talent that he's capable of making. And I think he's been more accurate as this season has gone along. That, again, the game situation was a 3rd and 21 in the second quarter from the Tennessee 39, where he was able to hit Calvin Ridley for that 30-yard completion while evading the pressure. These are quality throws that he's making. Yeah, there's some bad stuff in there too, but there's not enough bad stuff for me to rule him out in the last 4 weeks. I don't know how it's going to go, but that's what it's going to be at this point. Jermaine Hayes says that weird background music. Yes, that is Bert's a cappella version of Chris Berman's highlight package soundtrack. And, also I think Chris Berman keeps appearing in the top right-hand corner of our screen in a bikini. I'm not sure if that's him or Ron Jeremy. It appears to be Ron Jeremy. I don't know why Bert has these things saved in his flash drive. We should probably have him investigated to see what else he's hiding there of a more inflammatory nature, if that's the kind of stuff that he's keeping around here. Either way, has Will Levis shown me enough for at least 2025? Yes. I think the answer is yes at this point. And I think that while it does not mean that you have to be exclusively married to him for the rest of his career here, it can at least give you the opportunity to continue to build out the roster around him and make progress as a total team, because this team has so many critical parts and pieces missing that would keep it from effectiveness beyond just the quarterback. Very few players would have success playing quarterback here. And I think, something that doesn't get brought up enough is that hoping for a quarterback to just miraculously save you in the draft process is not a strategy. It's just a daydream. There's not that many of those elite quality quarterbacks that exist that are going to be able to do that for you in the long term, provided that you don't have a bad enough team around them to outright ruin them the way that we've seen so many quarterbacks be ruined. So I think people need to keep that in mind. I think they need to understand that this is not the year, certainly, for one of those life-changing, franchise-saving quarterbacks, and that you're basically, I would argue, 27, no, maybe not 27, let's say 25 other teams basically have to spend the bulk of their time trying to figure out the best job they can at quarterback, while the people at the top who have these unbelievable top-of-line players, the 3 or 4 even that you would consider to be elite in today's game, they're allowed to have a luxury that most franchises don't have. And if you don't have one of those guys, you've got to figure it out otherwise with as many different pieces and parts as you can. So that's I think where it starts. I think there should be a lot of consideration given to the roster construction this year. And I think that it's good enough with Will Levis right now to think that he can continue to manage the situation for at least the immediate moving forward in 2025, and certainly these next 5 games. All right, so with everything that's going on there, we will pass the torch to Robert Walsh, who is busy making background music and showcasing photographs of men in banana hammocks, but that's neither here nor there. We will hear from Bert on what we have missed this week right after I remind you that the Primetime program is made possible by Zen Sports, where they have a great offer for you at zensports.com. They have the opportunity for you to attend the college football final. It is going to be electric in this new edition of the expanded postseason picture for the Big Game Sweepstakes College Edition. The first time, instead of going to the big game for the pros, they're giving you a chance to go to the very first big game in the new college football tournament with a grand prize of $10,000 cash and 2 tickets to the biggest college football game of 2025, and the ability to earn entries on every bet you place in December. It doesn't get much better than that. So what are you waiting for? Head to zensports.com/sweepstakes for a full list of rules and earn a $100 no-danger wager for your first bet. Zen Sports betting just got better. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-889-9789. No danger. First wager limited to plus 500 odds to qualify. Terms and conditions do apply at Zen Sports. All right, Bert.
What's up?
How are you?
I'm getting there. Not doing too bad. We'll get you out of here quick, get you back to Broncos, Browns. You're not missing much. Dustin Hopkins just missed a 47-yard field goal. Denver takes back over at their 29. But that's not what I want to talk about. Not that shitty Monday Night Football game we've got this week. I want to talk about I don't think it was Bert. He looked like, holy shit, yeah, look at these teeth, baby. Regular person again. Regular person in here.
You are anything but a regular person. I can promise you that.
You know what I look like? I look like when they Photoshop teeth in dogs' mouths. Like I don't. It doesn't look like I should have teeth like this.
It is one of the more jarring things that I've experienced. Seeing you without braces, I don't know how to handle it.
Well, one thing that I can't handle is this MVP discussion that has ramped up in the last 2 weeks. And a lot of people are going to say, oh, this is Bert being bitter. Bert is so bitter that Lamar Jackson's not the MVP. I don't give a shit. I do not care. He has won it twice. Buffalo Bills fans definitely care because the only thing they tweet about, I swear to God, I think Bills fans would rather Josh Allen win the MVP than to actually win a Super Bowl. It's incessant. But you know what? They're right. This time, they are right. There has not been a better singular player who is more important to their team's success than Josh Allen. But if you just became a football fan in the last 2 weeks, you would think that Saquon Barkley is God's gift to football. I understand he's doing a great job. He's on pace to beat Eric Dickerson's record, which has stood forever, 2105 for rushing yards in a season. And I don't give a shit. I don't care. You know why? There's an extra game now. He did this in 12 games. I don't care. Okay, take an extra game away, which, you know what? Nick Sirianni is I almost cussed. He's so stupid and so in his own nuts that he would probably play Saquon the last week of the season and risk him getting hurt to break that record. Good for you. Good for you. But you know what? If Saquon Barkley was on the Giants, they would not be a playoff team. It's because he is on the Eagles. It is because he has the best offensive line in sport. Meanwhile, Josh Allen has been doing all of this with Mac Hollins, who, if they didn't give him a job, would be a school janitor. He is breaking records with Buffalo. They don't have their number one pick at tight end from last year, Dalton Kincaid. He's playing with a bunch of Jimmy and Joes. Keon Coleman hadn't played. It's Josh Allen. Shut up about this Saquon Barkley shit. This is the touchdown. You would think if he was the MVP, he would have been the MVP this whole time. What are we doing? He could have been the MVP. Oh, it happened 2 weeks ago, when he rushed for 2 70-yard touchdowns against the Rams. But big whoop, if you look at those plays, he could have scored a touchdown from 160 yards away because they stopped running. Oh, he was supposed to be, he's this huge MVP, this revolutionary running back. Who gives a shit? Let's look at the touchdown. Everybody was quiet. No one said anything in the Ravens game until Saquon had this 25-yard touchdown, which he had like 48 rushing yards at this point.
First down. Saquon. Oh, here he goes. Barkley at the 10, the 5, and the touchdown!
He's superhuman! Holy shit! How did he score that touchdown? Oh, let's see. I wonder how. Because there was a freaking false start! Where's the ball at? Oh, Jordan Mailata can't even stand up. Damn, he's just drunk as hell, falling over. Let's look at it again. Oh, from this angle, it's a great touchdown, Jim. Oh, it sure is. Jalen Hurts talking some bullshit back there, raising a leg up to fart. Here comes the ball. Oh, guy moved before.
Wow.
False start. But
that's crazy.
Because they're not the most scrutinized team, the most penalized team, nobody called it. No one cared. There's an agenda, and there's an agenda to make running backs relevant again, and I can appreciate that, but it's going to end with Saquon winning Offensive Player of the Year, and all of these media people know it. Every analyst knows it. But as soon as he has a freaking touchdown, as soon as he has a hole that somebody in a wheelchair could have scored through, Saquon's the MVP. Did you know the Giants let him walk? And their running back room has exactly how many rushing yards did he? Shut up! Shut up! You're doing it for clicks and retweets. We're not doing it anymore. Stop it! All right, I'm good. Sorry. It just pisses me off, man. Like, we just fall in this pitfall trap. Like, oh, hope nothing's down here. Nope, more bullshit. Like every time you get on Twitter.
Why are you arguing with people on Twitter?
I don't argue with them. I argue with them in my own noggin. I replied to like 3 tweets today and deleted them. What do I look like arguing with a child? It's probably some 6-year-old tweeting like, Saquon's the MVP. What do you know? Shut up.
I don't think I have anything to add. I think that's pretty good.
Roberto Cappuccino says, this is disgusting. Bro, are you good? Don't you have a coffee to make, dog? Mr. No Picture, Big R. I can't hear what you say all the way down there, Mr. Just Subscribed. How about you like the video for us?
Thank you, Bert.
Yep, bye.
That's going to do it for us tonight. Ooh, big play to the, looks like to the Denver, or rather to the Cleveland 1-yard line. Bo Nix is getting ready to drive in for a touchdown against Robert Walsh's hated Cleveland Browns. It looks like he caught that ball without it bouncing, but that remains to be seen. All right, that's going to do it for us tonight. Have a great rest of your evening. Radio show tomorrow at 10 a.m. on 104.5 The Zone. We'll see you there.
Go home! Go home! Go home! You're embarrassing Nashville! Go home!